I mean, don't stop. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Just don't stop. It's like, and right now they're trying to figure it out. They're in their 20s and they want to be an artist. And I said, yeah, I don't have an answer for you right now, but it'll come. It just comes. But don't stop what you're doing.
Welcome to the Bold Brush Show, where we believe that fortune favors bold. Brush. My name is Laura Engelbert, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. For today's episode, we interviewed Donald Yatomi, a multifaceted artist whose journey from graphic design to illustration to concept art and fine art exemplifies creative resilience and passion. His advice to aspiring artists centers on carrying a sketchbook everywhere, capturing fleeting ideas, and never stopping one's artistic pursuit. Donald emphasizes the critical importance of networking, highlighting that success often depends more on who you know than what you know. He candidly shares insights about handling rejection, noting that sometimes a rejection says more about a viewer's limitations than the artist's talent. Throughout his career, from working at DreamWorks to creating album covers for metal bands, Donald has demonstrated the value of diversifying artistic skills and income streams. His most profound wisdom lies in understanding that artistic success isn't just about money, but about maintaining creative freedom and continuously pursuing what you love. Finally, Donald tells us about his upcoming solo exhibition at Frame of Reference Art Gallery in Whitefish, Montana on August 7th. Welcome, Donald, to the BoldBrush Show. How are you today?
Good. Thanks for having me, Laura.
Yeah, thank you for being here. I'm really excited to talk to you because you have such an extensive background in illustration, working with, DreamWorks, Sony, and all these amazing things. But also your work is so beautiful. I love the feeling of the rooms that you paint and the feeling of the places that you paint because they have a nostalgic air to them. I don't know why. There's just something in them that I can look at them and just feel like, wow, yeah, feels
Yeah.
like my childhood.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I don't
Yeah,
know.
of course.
I don't I'm flattered and I'm glad you feel that way and to hear those words it's always nice, but man, at the end of the day, like I'm still trying to figure it out, as a painter. It's like, but yeah. As far as
Yeah.
the nostalgia thing, I've gotten that compliment a lot. And I don't know if it's because of my age and I'm drawn to more of the nostalgic spaces or what. Um, I don't realize that. I'm just drawn to these spaces, especially laundromats.
Mhm.
Laundromats is something I grew up with. So yeah, I like going to those spaces and doing sketches. Um, but anyways, thank you.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome. And yeah, laundromats. I feel like a lot of people have experienced laundromats and just there's something about the smell, the sounds, the colors, and then I see them in your paintings, of course. I'm like, I'm there. It really pulls me back there again. I feel like I'm holding a coin in my hand and I'm waiting for my laundry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But there's a lot of, well, I mean, of course, growing up, I spent a lot of time in laundromats because we didn't have um, washer and dryer because I grew up poor and all that, right? So, so I was drawn to laundromats because it was really, really familiar to me. But as an artist, as you get educated and you learn the skills to paint and to draw, suddenly you're in this space, a laundromat that you want to connect with. And artistically, it's the boringest space in the world, right? It's monochromatic. There's repetitive shapes like the circles, and every machine is all in line. And so it's boring. But I remember um, the first laundromat I tried painting. I just said to myself, I'm like, that's my challenge. That's the challenge to try to take a boring space and try to connect with the viewer or try to make it romantic at the least. What is romantic in my eyes, right? To try to capture the sound and the memories that I had when I was a kid. But yeah, the first laundromat I did was in Santa Monica. I think it was on the corner of Oceanside and 23rd. That's that's where I used to take my our laundry when I first got married. And yeah, I did a on location oil painting in there, and
Awesome.
I mean, it didn't, it turned out okay. And um, ever since then, I just kept on doing laundromats. I think I've done so many already. Like they all seem to sell. I don't know who's buying them, but it sells.
I guess it's someone who really also loves the nostalgic feeling of a laundromat. I mean, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I wanted to ask you too, if you mind telling us a little bit more about, who you are and what else you do besides painting laundromats.
Okay. Well, going back, I grew up in Hawaii. I went to the University of Hawaii. I remember back then, I knew I wanted to be an artist, but I didn't know how to be an artist. So one of the things that they would say was like, well, why don't you get into graphic design? So I majored in graphic design first. And I remember that first semester, I was like, I hate this. I hate, what is this? Typography, studying typography and letter placement and, big abstract shapes. And so I went to the counselor and I said, I don't think I like this. What else do you have for me? He goes, what do you like to do? And I said, I like to draw and I paint. And he says, well, why don't you just switch over to the fine art department? You can paint and draw all you want. So anyways, so I switched over. Long story short, I graduated with a painting degree, a BFA in University of Hawaii. Um, so that's how it all started. Um, but then again, I was faced with another challenge. After I got out of University of Hawaii, I had this BFA in my hand. I'm like, well, what do I do now? You know, and they don't teach you how to do the gallery circuit or how to make a living. It's a university. They just teach you the classical theories and such. But you don't. It's not a commercial oriented school. So that's when I said to myself, I'm gonna try to go to Art Center. Art Center was the school I've always wanted to go, and I applied there for a master's degree because I already had a BFA, right? I got a I applied for a master's degree, and they rejected me. They're like, no, I think you'll really benefit from our illustration program. Why don't you do our bachelor program first, and then you can get into master's? Like, what? I already have a bachelor. I don't want to do another bachelor. Well, anyways, I wanted to go so badly that I said, okay, I'll do a BFA program. So I got into the illustration program way back in '93, and then it was great. Well, it was hard though. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, Art Center. It was kind of traumatizing sometimes, but man, you learn a lot within a span of 3 years, and you get connected with the most amazing people. So in that sense, I have absolutely no regrets. I mean, in fact, I still keep in touch with a lot of them, and a lot of them gave me jobs, you know. So they all went into the entertainment industry and such, and yeah, I think that's all I got for now.
Yeah, well, more will come up because I'm also very curious about, because you did some concept art as well, and of course with illustration. I was also curious because now, of course, you do fine art, and that's what you've always loved, from what you've mentioned. How has your process that you've noticed or that you can think of, how has your process been affected by your knowledge in concept art and illustration?
Let's see. Definitely helped out a lot because Art Center teaches you the fundamentals, the real formal issues down to basics. They start you off with that and they drill it into you. So you basically learn about color theory and even the harder stuff like, there's so much figure drawing classes back then. So we had to understand the human anatomy. And then one of the harder classes that was required for us to take, I think, I think it was my fourth or third term. There's 8 terms altogether. Third or fourth term, they require you to take perspective. So they teach you 3-point perspective and how to plot it on paper, things like that. So learning all those things by hand definitely helped because by the time I got out of Art Center, Photoshop started kicking in big time with the entertainment industry, right? So Photoshop was replacing a lot of the traditional artists in the entertainment field, and I think some of them. I mean, a lot of us kind of resisted. Oh, I forgot to tell you. Right out of Art Center, I went to work for DreamWorks, so I got lucky there. Um, I worked on Prince of Egypt and Road to El Dorado as a background painter. So that was fun. That was a cool way to start my career.
I'm gonna fangirl a little bit. I love those movies.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yes, those are some of my top favorites from my
yeah,
childhood.
yeah. It was fun. And man, you just learn a lot. You know how, sometimes they teach you things in school and you don't really understand or get the purpose of it. For instance, well, Art Center teaches you a lot of doing preliminaries before you do the final painting,
Mhm.
both in sketches and studies, gray tone studies, and color keys. But I remember as a student, I was like, what is all this? Why is this so necessary? I just want to go straight to my painting. You know, it's like all the appetizers before dinner. It's like, what is this? I don't want to. I just want to eat dinner. Well, when you get into the industry, you can see why it's so important to do all these preliminaries. So I learned a lot. Again, it was redundant stuff, but DreamWorks. Um, a lot of the preliminaries and color key requirements came back in came back into play to get to the final painting. So yeah, where am I getting at? Yeah, did I answer your question?
In part, I mean, do you personally do those preliminaries for your fine art work, or did you abandon doing preliminaries altogether?
Oh
Because
no. No, nowadays I actually do a lot of these preliminaries. Yeah, I do
Mm,
on location. Like especially my my urban paintings, I do a lot of on location sketches,
mm.
both with markers and paper. I don't know if people still use that. Um, I should bring out my markers. Oh,
Like the Prismacolor markers, or
I like
'cause those are really great.
what? Can you
Oh,
see?
so like the Copic markers sort
Yeah,
of style. Nice.
yeah. So I do a
Yeah.
lot of preliminary studies on location if I have time. Um, usually if I just want to see basic shapes and sequential reads, I'll just do Copic markers.
Mhm.
But a lot of times I have my iPad with me and I'm doing on location sketches using Procreate. So do you ever use Procreate?
I have never used Procreate, but I did see some of like your digital work, and I think it's
Yeah.
also really cool.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks. So I'll do those things and I'll also take a lot of photos.
Mm.
So it's like, so I'm combining a lot of things. I'm trying to capture the colors with my digital paintings. I'm trying to do the basic composition sketches with my Copic markers. And then I'll take a lot of photos just in case I miss a lot of details. And so I'll bring all of that together and bring it back into the studio and just start on hopefully make a successful larger painting out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then in terms of I guess I would want to also know in terms of the composition, right? Because as my one of my instructors used to say, reality is boring. Um, Do you ever play around with like the colors and like kind of like push them around a bit or like
Yeah.
change them up a bit for
Oh
composition?
yeah. Yeah. You know, and okay, so in the 80s, I was highly, highly influenced by photorealism. So I did a lot of studies on the photorealistic movement out of New York, right?
Mhm.
The Don Eddies, the Chuck Closes. So those guys, I remember doing my final thesis at the University of Hawaii. It was based on photorealism. So I did a lot of photorealistic paintings. And, you know, the emphasis of photorealism was to capture the camera. You know, as a young person, I always thought like, oh my gosh, like that looks so realistic. And if you're looking at a photorealistic painting, it looks so realistic, and you're convincing yourself that that's reality. But photorealism was all about what the camera sees and not what the human eye sees, right? And so it was more of the discipline of matching paint to what the camera captures and you're putting on canvas. So I started off like that and doing a lot of photograph copies, you know. So so you get trained and you get good at capturing what the camera does. But nowadays, it's I do I combine a lot of things. So I do, like I said, I do the photograph, I do studies for myself, but what I experience when I'm painting, I'm fighting against four things, and I wrote this down. You start to realize that you're fighting against what you see, right? And there's an eyeball curvature that we're fighting against, right? Because when we're looking at a space, we're like, okay, I'm going to capture that. But even if you're standing still with your neck not moving, as soon as you move your eyeball, the cone of vision changes, right? So when when you shift your cone of vision, everything that you looked at straight ahead starts curving out, and you don't even realize that, right? So you're fighting against that. And then when you're taking pictures, you're fighting against the camera because the camera has its own field of vision and it takes out a lot of the value steps. Sorry, I'm getting really technical, but yeah, so the camera breaks down a lot of the value steps that you see in real life, and you lose it on the whatever you take pictures, whenever you take pictures. And then you're also fighting against what you're trying to understand. So there's a static fundamental that we have to put down on paper. And so that's the perspective, like um, you're trying to implement the 3-point perspective of what you see in life and putting it on canvas. But remember, you're fighting against what you remembered seeing and also what the camera is saying, the photograph. Um, so while I'm fighting all of that, I'm also fighting against what you said earlier about like, yeah, real life is boring. So you try to make up stuff, you know. So yeah, on my canvas, sometimes I do a lot of cheats. I ignore things on the photograph or you know that nocturne painting, for example,
Mhm.
right there. I remember when I was doing those studies, there was nobody standing outside. I'm like, oh, it needs a person standing here. So I didn't capture it in my color study and I didn't capture it in my photograph. So I had to kind of type in on Google. I'm like, person standing outside in the dark, you know? And then sometimes I'll do that. I'll grab photos and just put it in there. So yeah, I'm doing all those things.
Yeah. Oh, that's really cool, and it's very true. You know, you have all of these things that could potentially be working against. creating a good image, right? Which is why it's so important, first of all, to paint from
Yeah.
life as much as possible. Because I feel like that's the way to directly attack any distortions we might naturally have. Like, for
Hmm.
example, in my case, I know I have a tendency, like when I would paint the model or draw the model, I had a tendency to make my model thicker than they were, just a
Okay.
bit like bulkier.
Yeah.
And since I know
Yeah.
I have that tendency, right, I would
Yeah.
like overshoot the thinness. And then because I have the tendency to pull back into like the thickness, it would end up just landing in the right spot. Because I would
Oh,
overshoot.
yeah.
Um, but what's really cool is I like that you mentioned the fight with also like that cone of vision that we have, because I think that's the biggest challenge of any artist is when you
Mhm.
look at an object, right? Or like when I'm looking at you, right? Everything around your image is blurry to me. Like it's not directly
Yeah.
in perfect crispy sort of view,
Yeah.
right? Which is why I think
Yeah.
a lot of the old paintings by the old masters are also very successful because they take into account like the point of interest, right? That uh the point of where the artist wants the person to look at. And usually if it's a
Right.
portrait, obviously it's the face of
Mhm.
the sitter. And then the secondary point of interest might be the hands, and then everything else is still really well painted, but it isn't the primary point of interest. So it tends to just be like painted in such a way where it's not bothersome to the eye, but at the same time, if you look at it directly, it won't be boring either, right? It's a very delicate and difficult
Yeah.
balance. Yeah.
And I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, that's where the artist comes in,
Mhm.
right? You can use all these tools. You can use a sketchbook, you can use the iPad, you can use the camera, you can use all these tools, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what do you want to put on the canvas? It's not these things that you use. It's you. It's like what do you want to capture? Where do you want the field of the focal point to be? I forgot to mention to you what the camera does and doesn't do.
Mhm.
That you reminded me. What the camera doesn't do as you take pictures for reference is that it doesn't capture the real-time atmospheric distortion, right? So when you take a picture of a foggy space, like a road with a foggy background, sure, it'll capture the fog and define all the descending or ascending value steps towards the camera. Sure, it'll do that, but it doesn't capture the real-time distortion. So when you're actually there, you see so much more and things are moving right in the air. And that's why it's so important for me anyways, because I'm done with the photorealistic thing that I did in the 80s, um, is to capture that noise. It's the visual noise that the camera doesn't see. It'll do static stuff, but it won't do the real-time stuff. So it's kind of hard to explain. And along with that, you're also experiencing the quietness, right? Or the noise or the movements. Everything kind of comes together and you're like, okay, how do I capture that using all of these tools and putting it on the canvas? So um, that's why it's important to use both the camera and the your yourself, being there yourself, so that you really get to know your subject matter, whether it's a figure or an environment.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think you definitely do it successfully because again, like to bring it back to the laundromats, like I see your painting of a laundromat and I can feel like I'm in there. In like the sense of like the feeling of that humidity inside of the laundromat from all of the machines going, or
Yeah,
even just like the sounds, the colors. There's just something very specific about it. And I like that you mentioned,
yeah,
the like a foggy sort of road. If you've experienced it, right, you know that fog isn't just one perfect thing, right? You'll have like
yeah,
kind of like sheets of it and like little clouds of
yeah,
it that move around. So you might get like a peaking of something that comes into focus a little bit better in the back, but then that cloud
yeah,
goes through and then it exposes another part. So
yeah,
it's really interesting to try to capture, of course, life, right? Something that isn't
yeah,
static. And I think
yeah,
that's one of the it's like yeah, it's beneficial to use photographs, especially in
Yeah.
if you're capturing a pose or something that just isn't easy to hold for too long.
Mhm.
But of course, there's a caveat of like, well, it's useful, but it's limiting. It's just a tool. Like it shouldn't be the the end, right? It's a means to the end. It's a something we use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be the end for some who
Yeah.
just like doing that,
That's
but
totally fine.
not for me. It's just, it's kind of like what you said earlier about, like, yeah, real life is boring sometimes. You gotta make it a little bit more, push it a little bit more.
Mm.
I also wanted to point out too, and I'm not a figure guy. I'm not a I'm not a huge. I mean, at Art Center, we were required to draw the figure and paint the figure like extensively. But that's not my topic of choice. But you probably would understand, even when you look at the figure or the human form, if you if you took a photograph of the model and you try to paint from the photo, sure, the accuracy is there. Sure, the proportions are there. Sure, the likeness is there. But what you're not going to catch from the camera, unless you see the model in real life, are all the how your eye translate how a surface moves backwards, right? All that stuff, and also the material of the face, whether it's greasy or there's blemishes, things like that, that the camera just abstracts out. Another thing that the camera cannot capture with the human form is like the changing temperature, with our skin. Like you don't even realize that we're like there's like blood moving and it's just changing the actual color of the skin and even the water or the moisture or whatever else is going on. Like I said, I'm not an expert, but but I remember when we were doing the live model extensively at Art Center, it's like you're looking at your painting. I'm like, well, that's not what I saw half an hour ago. It's
Mhm.
because the person is changing or moving or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I definitely relate to that. Like at one of the studios where we did a lot of our figures, we had a skylight, but of course, if it's sunny outside or if it's cloudy, despite it being a skylight that, it comes at an angle and the light does it the best it can, right? To be as equal as possible. It doesn't, it would change the colors on my model so much sometimes that
mhm.
like even my instructor once they would come for a critique they'd be like, I don't see any of that. I'm like, I promise it was there 10 minutes ago. If you
Yeah,
look at their leg, I promise it was a lot
yeah,
more orange like
yeah,
10 minutes ago.
yeah,
So I would try, like, that's the other challenge, like, okay, well, now that I've done it this way, I'm gonna try to wait until like I see that it's cloudy again and that indirect light really helps bring out the natural colors of this person
yeah,
so it's easier to continue.
yeah,
Because if there comes a point where it's like, I don't want to take these out because they actually look really beautiful, and human bodies are actually much more colorful
yeah,
sometimes than we would think. Like there's these beautiful lilacs in some people's face, or like these beautiful
right.
grayish greens, or these gorgeous yellows. Like there's just so much more in there, and the camera, like you said, just absolutely cannot catch that.
Yeah.
It cannot.
Do you like Alyssa Monk's work?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, she's able to, oh my gosh, communicate or capture the human skin in so many so many colors. It's crazy.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I love her balance between thick and thin brush strokes. She's just dancing all over the canvas. So, anyways,
Yeah.
she, her work is just amazing.
It is. Yeah. And it's wonderful to look at work like that too because it's so inspiring. It's like, oh man, I really want more variety in my brushstrokes, for example. Like seeing her work is like, oh wow, now I can do this. Because I also see in your work, your images also have a painterly movement to them, which I really
Yeah,
like. Like because you also have this really nice blend of like thicker paint and thinner paint and like this vibrating sort of look to your work that is really
yeah.
beautiful.
Thank you. I like the way you described it because it makes me you made it sound like I know what I'm doing, but man, I don't. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm telling you the truth. It's like till this very day, I'm just still trying to figure it out. And then a lot of it too is just I'm so impatient, you know? It's like I just want to move on. Because, okay, so for me, the most important thing for me that I've grown to become is that I care more about compositions and the narrative. Believe it or not, like my my stuff is more about composition and the narrative and what it's communicating rather than my color mixing or my brush strokes. You know what I mean? It's like I'm sort of like resolved that I'm not going to be a great painter. All you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm more like, you know, I all I care about is how it sits on the canvas. I want it to read, I want the cadence order to be the way I compose it. So composition is not just placing the darks and the lights and the cools and the warms and the white spaces, but it's also like where are you having your viewer eyes move? You know, so I'm kind of like directing where to look first, where to leave off the canvas, how to enter back in. That's what I care about. And so anyway, so till this day, that's what I fight against every time I paint. It's like, oh, what? It's like, I don't care about my colors. I don't care if I paint. I don't care if people say I'm a good painter. I want them to be engaged. I think that's all I want, you know. You know, with when you want to talk about great painters, it's like, I can't compete with them. They're so good, you know.
If you've been enjoying the podcast and also want to be able to ask our guests live questions, then you might want to join our monthly BoldBrush Live webinars, where our guest artists discuss marketing tips, share inspiring stories, and answer your burning questions in real time. Whether you're a seasoned painter or just starting your creative journey, this is your chance to connect, learn, and spark new ideas. And whether you're stuck on a canvas or building your creative business, this is where breakthroughs happen. Don't miss out. Ignite your passion and transform your art practice by joining us. Our next BoldBrush Live webinar is coming up on July 17th with our special guest, Noah Buchanan. You can find the sign-up link in the show notes. At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day-by-day, step-by-step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's faso.com/podcast.
So
Oh man, but I think we all feel that way, especially if anyone ever looks at, I don't know, like a Rembrandt or a Sargent or, Zorn. You look at them, it's like, oh man,
yeah.
uh,
Did I tell
maybe.
you? Yeah, I wrote this down. Did I tell you who my biggest influences are?
No, what are they?
You might, it may or may not connect. Of course, Chuck Close, right? We talked
Yes.
about that.
Yeah.
Chuck Close, Jackson Pollock.
Oh, yeah. I can see
I
that.
mean, I don't do expressionistic art, but I love Jackson Pollock. and de Kooning.
Mm.
Those are the three guys that just really, really like keeps me going. Like I know my work doesn't look like theirs, but um, those are the three main guys. And then I was highly, highly influenced by my former teachers at Art Center, Richard Bunkle and Ray Turner. So Ray Turner is a friend now, so it's kind of cool. But those guys, and then going back, going back to the 80s, I was highly influenced by the American illustrators too. Like Fred Otney's and Bernie Fuchs. So Bernie Fuchs, do you like his stuff?
I will admit, not familiar. I might have seen his stuff without knowing it was his.
I mean, he's his compositions are just amazing to me, and he always uses that Dutch slant, Dutch tilt,
Mm.
and all that. But his stuff is really engaging. But yeah, these guys, um, even though my work doesn't look like theirs, uh, they're totally highly influential. And then, and how can you not like Dan McCall? Oh my gosh, love his stuff. I want to paint like him. I've been trying to paint like him for years. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't, I just cannot paint like him. So yeah, those are the guys. Um, I don't think I mentioned to your audience what I've been doing for the last 28 years too. So after DreamWorks, I got into video game design.
Mhm.
I forgot to tell you that.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear about it because I think that's
So
so fascinating.
so after DreamWorks, I got into video game design, and back then it was early PlayStation 1. The early video games, and
Mhm.
so I was one of the early ones to start as a concept artist, and but but man, that was the one of the best things to happen to be a visual designer for video games, because you get to draw everything and anything, and you get to make up stuff. And I think that that has helped me too to this day, like being able to make up things from your memory, because everything is just based on what you remember. Yeah. You can look up stuff on Google Images all you want, but the database that your brain has is way more than what you can type in Google. So um, so I was able to be a concept artist for 28 years or so for video games. And then recently, about 2 years ago, I actually resigned from Sony because, yeah, Sony was such a great company. They treated me well. That job I was able to raise my family, and so it was such a good thing. However, towards the end, you start realizing that, your passion to paint comes back. And I've been painting for art galleries at night throughout the whole time I was working at Sony. But finally, like 2 years ago, um, with AI taking over video games and everything, it kind of changed the demand for concept art, the way it looks and everything. So, so I left, and I'm trying to do this painting thing full time now. So, so far it's been good. I mean, I'm already sending my work to 5 art galleries, so that's kind of keeping me afloat. But
Ah.
it's been good. Yeah, yeah. And I built this studio.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah,
so
because you moved
it's
last
cool.
year.
What's
Yeah,
that?
you
Yeah,
moved last year. Yeah.
right. So this was a old external garage when we
Mm.
bought the house, and then we
Nice.
just converted it. We took out the garage doors and put French doors and windows, added a bathroom back there. So, anyways, so I'm trying to do the full-time thing, and it feels, I'll tell you, my stress level has gone down. Because when you work for the corporate world, man, it's so stressful. So, I mean, I did well. I did good enough in the corporate world. But yeah, at the end of the day, you just want to paint. That's all I want to do. Is just paint. And so here I am, doing it. You know.
Yes. And actually, that's really funny because, of course, one of the questions I like to ask my guests, of course, is how they like what it was like for them to make the jump into becoming just full-time artists, without like a day job, which of course yours was Sony.
Mhm.
Um, what has it been like for you? What besides, less stress in terms of like, for example, like income, or how have you considered like maybe like making sure you have more income, like besides just selling work? Have you considered like teaching, or is there anything that you've done to like try to keep
Yep.
keep yourself going?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been fortunate enough that so I'm painting for 5 galleries
Mhm.
in 5 different states. So that's good. Are sales steady? No, it's not. It just kind of comes and goes. But what I'm doing on the side is like I do freelance work. So I'm illustrating for a book right now for this Russian company, and it's a really fun book. It's a book on inventions and larger than life vehicles and machinery, so it's kind of like perfect for me. Um, I don't know if you want me to share a screen or anything like that. I can
I mean, if you have like images, then that would be kind of cool to see.
okay, I'll show you some stuff. Oh, going back to your question too, what I do also is I do teach online for CGMA. Um, as a digital artist, I teach digital art, Photoshop. I don't do the 3D stuff. I just do digital paintings. All right, so it's kind of cool. So as you know, working for video games, one of the favorite things that I was able to do was draw and paint machinery, right? Whether it's guns or tanks or cars with machine guns. And yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
And I still like to do that to this day, And so when I got this gig, that was really fun. Let me share. So one of the first things I did was called the ornithopter. So it was basically the ask was taking um, Da Vinci's drawings and see what I would envision a human powered airplane would be. So
So
can,
cool.
so can you see this?
Yes.
And so this was a sketch. This was the initial
Mhm.
sketch of for the 2-page layout. And so you're sort of making up some stuff. There's a lot of sketches that you're sort of making up. And then my invention was like this guy is just pedaling, and just with this little wheel here is powering the whole aircraft. And it's not for real, but you get to kind of do these kinds of fun projects. So this sketch was approved, and after that we take it to a full color finish, which is so it ended up to be that.
Oh, so cool.
That's
Oh, I love a little Victorian guy in the background.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you're trying to make that connection with what Da Vinci sketched out way back when,
Mhm.
right? And some of the inventions. So this is kind of fun. So this is done in Photoshop, and that led to a couple other assignments. Let me see. After that, I did the Caspian Sea Monster, which is that. So it's the same layout. You're doing the main illustration, and then you're also incorporating some made up vehicles, and then explaining the technology all on one page. So there's that.
So cool.
Then they had me do the screw propeller vehicle. So, just more of these kinds of vehicle designs. So this main vehicle actually existed. And
Mm.
and then these sketches to the left here are the actual vehicles that they made. And
Oh.
then in this corner, I'm doing my own invention. So I get to have a little bit of fun. So I'll take
Mm.
the technology and just make up my own. Mhm.
That is so fascinating. Do you find that like this, because of course, I mean, you have your fine artwork. Do you find that this also kind of feeds the excitement of painting, or do you like, or is this more like one of those things that's like it feeds a different part of your soul that maybe your fine art doesn't
I
quite feed?
No, I think it just feeds a different side of me. It's like I do
Mm.
like I am kind of nerdy in some sense, in this kind of sense,
Yeah.
I like the equipment design, and then my painting, I still like oil painting. So it's like liking two things, it feels like.
Mhm.
But like I said, I've been fortunate. Um, I've been fortunate to get these kinds of freelance work while I'm doing painting on the side, because it really helps with um the income, to have
Mm.
the multiple streams of income. So
Exactly.
some people, some artists teach a lot or do workshops, and I don't do the workshop thing, you know.
Mm.
Uh, maybe one day I will, but I'm so busy already, so I don't think I have the space to do it.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it'll happen when it's gonna happen if you want it to happen, right? Like I find that one of the beautiful things about this career, and I've mentioned it in the past, in past episodes, is that every artist can pick and choose the ways that they can fill out their income, right? Some artists might do prints of their work, some artists might teach every year, at least like the same expected
Yeah,
workshops. Of course, primarily they sell their paintings. They'll sell online courses, like they'll find ways to fill out those gaps in income that selling paintings only just can't really do because of course any salesperson, whether they are artists or not, will know that there are dry spells. There are, times where you sell, and times where you don't sell for a while because there are extenuating factors outside of our grasp. Like, of course, the economy or anything that happens, whether it's like, for example, the fires in California a few months ago, where that affects people's ability to be
yeah,
able to purchase artwork. So being an artist is so much like how do you want to I like to compare it to like video games. It's like life is open world exploration type of video game. It's role
yeah,
playing RPG, right?
yeah.
Where
Oh,
like
you play?
oh, of course I do.
Oh, that's funny. That's
Yeah, that's
awesome.
why when I heard you played video games, I'm like, hell yeah.
Yeah,
I like to say life is an RPG, and you pick what you want to do, and then if you're an artist, of course, within that you have to figure out your little income streams.
yeah,
So it's cool to see that because I've never met someone who does like freelance like illustration like you, who like, oh, I really, really love this enough to actually like go out there and like try to find like side income from that, and still sell my work. I think that's something for, that would benefit our listeners who maybe still have that love for illustration and don't want to give it up, or
yeah,
feel like they have to pick and choose between the two. And it's nice to know, oh, wow, this person does both and can still
yeah,
find enjoyment from it, which is really
yeah.
important. Yeah.
I have I have a couple of painter friends. That's all they do. They just sell paintings. That's how good they are. You know.
Mhm.
So so there's that. And then a lot of us do teach on the side in some form or another. And yeah, so I do the teaching. I do Photoshop too. But I got to tell you about this one thing I do on the
Mhm.
side too. So I do album cover art.
Cool.
So it's kind of so that's been kind of fun. But in all honesty, it's like metal bands, they don't have a lot
Hmm.
of money, so it's like it's more like, just you get paid a little bit, but it's not going to make a living, kind of thing. But it's fun because I like the music, so I should show you some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you have images of album covers you've worked on, that's really cool because I think, and I love that you mentioned this because I think that highlights also how artists do what they do out of love for the thing and
Yeah,
not because of some expected profit. Like the profit is like, oh, that's nice. And yeah, it
yeah,
makes it maybe a little worth my time because, our time on earth is limited. Um, but in the end, we're still making something that hopefully will outlast us. And we're doing it just for the sake of it. Like art for the sake of art and for the sake of creating beauty, I think is something that it just makes me happy to be in
yeah,
this career.
yeah. You really, I mean, at the end of the day, it's like you're gonna flourish, and flourish. When I use the word flourish, it doesn't always equate to money. It's like what is success to you, right? It's man, when I was working in the corporate world doing video games, man, they pay you a lot of money, but you're you're not really happy. You know what I mean? Because you're in this corporate structure. There's so many rules and policies, and then it's a collaboration decision in regards to art. Um, so you got the whole world deciding what your art is supposed to look like in video games, right? So and that's your typical corporate structure, anyways. And you're sitting on the computer from Monday through Friday for 8 to 10 hours, and you're stuck. You know what I mean? And for people that like to travel or take vacations, you have to go through all of these steps to get permission to be allowed to go. And it took me a long time to realize that, man, it's like you're giving up your freedom for money. So it's like, where do you put success? So that's why I told you that. I love that last um webinar with with John Master or Don
Yeah,
Master.
John. Yeah.
I mean, he was able to articulate. I gotta watch it again, but he was able to articulate what was success to him, right? So it's a balance between income, freedom, and doing what you love to do, right? So that's you just got to put where your importance are. But let me show you
Mhm.
some of the other things that I do, if
Yeah,
that's okay with you.
that's totally fine with me.
So here's my other website
Yes, I saw this one too.
on ArtStation.
Mm. Which we'll have the link in the show notes for this as well, so
Yeah.
everyone can go check it
So,
out.
so I have all these categories. So can you see my cursor?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I do environment design, vehicle design, aeronautical design, naval design, and mech design, and then character design, and then weapon design. So these six categories is what's required
Mhm.
for entertainment design or video games. So that's why I keep it. But I have other folders that shows my digital studies on location. So I do these kinds of things. So I'm at restaurants and breweries and doing on location sketches with Procreate just to
So do you have like
practice.
a tablet or something that you take?
Yep. Yeah, this is on the
Awesome.
iPad.
Oh, that is so cool.
So it kind of records it for you.
Hmm. I think that's such a, just for our listeners also, it's such a
Yeah.
great opportunity too, with like if someone does have a tablet, and can afford a tablet, of course, and can like, use that if they're traveling a lot or if they don't want to carry like painting equipment. It's
Yeah.
also really nice to be able to use an app like this,
Yeah.
to paint on the go.
So this was a laundromat out in Oregon.
Nice.
I sat there and there was this person just sitting there So I'll do these digital studies, which actually lead to um, the actual painting.
Mhm.
So that digital study led to, I highly recommend using Artwork Archive, by the way.
Ooh,
Do you ever use that? Do you have,
I've never heard of it.
it's,
That is so cool.
yeah, it's like a database that you can manage all your images.
Dang. You hear that,
So,
folks? If you need a place to put your work, go to Artwork Archive.
so this digital
Nice.
painting, which was done with Procreate
Hmm.
and Infinite Painter and PaintStorm Studio, those are the three software that I use on my iPad. So I sat there and painted this from life, took this study and made an oil painting of
Oh,
based on the
wow.
image.
Yeah.
So because of that study, I was able to take this. So that's the study. This is what I saw in my with my own eyeballs, right? But you can
Mhm.
going back to the early things that we talked about half an hour ago about whether I make up things or add things or edit things. So from that study, I took it to a big painting, and you see how I added the word laundromat backwards on this glass
Yes.
here? So sometimes I'll do that just to make the painting a little bit more interesting. But you can see how many laundromats I've done.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. Tons. Almost the
This
entire
is,
page is laundromats.
oh, you remember that laundromat I told you that the first,
Yeah.
that's,
Oh, that is so
that's the,
nice.
oh my gosh, it's terrible.
No, I love it. I really
You know,
love the warmth of
yeah,
like the lights. It really makes you feel like it's kind of, I must say it sounds a little it looks a little grimy. Um, but it's a vibe.
thank
It
you.
really puts you there.
Laura, you're probably just tired of me or hearing that from me, but man, it's like when you're an artist, you're just always struggling whether you're good or not, right? It's like,
Yep,
so
absolutely. I
that's
don't
what you,
think that
that's,
goes away ever.
yeah,
Which I think is just to talk about that a little bit. I think it's still a bit important to have those goalposts, as an artist where they're just far enough away they're out of your reach, and then when you
yeah,
get there, your goalposts move, because or
yeah,
else we would never really continue to grow.
yeah,
Like it sounds a little bit like if you know the myth of Tantalus always reaching up for the apple and never quite reaching it, or the fruit on the tree. That's a
yeah,
little bit how it feels to be an artist. I know some people like to compare it to Sisyphus, but I feel like I don't think that's the appropriate comparison since Sisyphus
yeah,
was being punished. I don't think painting is much of a punishment. And it doesn't feel as futile um, to reach up for this delicious fruit that we're all reaching out for.
yeah,
And we all have our own fruit that we're reaching for. So I think it's
yeah.
yeah, it's
You're
something
and
we
you're
got to live
right.
with.
And you're right because it's like even at my age, I still want to take classes, you
Yeah.
know. I mean,
Hmm.
that doesn't stop.
Nope.
Let me just show you real quick before
Hmm.
I stop sharing. Sometimes I'll do so I told you about the album covers.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
sometimes I'll get gigs like this, like doing illustration, like a portrait homage. I
hmm.
got this gig, and this guy wanted an homage of his brother, and he wanted it done in the 80s montage style, you know.
Hmm.
So sometimes I'll get gigs like that.
Oh,
And
that's
then
so cool.
here's an album cover I did for Tourniquet. I don't know if you know Tourniquet.
No.
Tourniquet
Uh,
is like this 90s thrash metal band, and the drummer called me up and he wanted me to do a cover for his next single. So the next single was supposed to be the re-release of um, Ark of the Covenant. I think that was the song. And he's a huge animal rights guy, right? So he
hmm.
wanted me to show all the animals being lured into this train. I mean, there's so much symbolism here, right?
Yeah, I see it.
So the train, of course, what led to Auschwitz and things like that.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, metal is
It's
so
all
dark.
good. It is, yeah.
It's so dark. So the more darker you can go, the more they love it, right? So
Hmm.
this was all the animals that's being lured into this train, but the train was a combination of a guillotine and a mousetrap, all the
Yeah.
cheesy motifs that we could think of. And then the guys in the middle are the butcher,
Hmm.
the scientist, and the
Hmm.
circus guy
Interesting.
waiting in there. So
That's,
there's that.
yeah.
There's another one. This is the front cover and the back cover for this band called Emissary.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. And then
Dang.
I did a couple for um Megadeth. Do you know
Yeah,
Megadeth?
I know Megadeth, actually.
Yeah.
I like Megadeth.
Yeah. So I did this
Oh, that is so cool.
this was for their Christmas card.
Oh,
And I
man.
made a Christmas tree all in the shape of all their guitars put together and their drum set to be
Mhm.
the boosters,
That
And
is so
then that's
cool.
their logo up there as a
Hmm.
star. So I did that one. And then here's another one for Megadeth. It was basically their mascot making it
That is
snowing.
so cool. And like a
Oh yeah.
nuclear winter.
Anyways, if you want to look more at my stuff, you can hop on that art
Yeah.
station.
Yeah, that's awesome. Um, that is so cool. I didn't know that like they're because of course, like, man, we all love like our own bands and stuff. And like it's I feel like even I don't know, maybe it's a niche thing. When I was a kid, I was like, man, this would be such a cool album cover. And like to see that someone like you is actually like, oh yeah, no, you can actually like do that.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah. Usually,
That's something to add to my list. Maybe I'll add it to my bucket list where maybe I'll reach out to some band that I like and be like, hey, I'm gonna hit you up.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that is so awesome. And then I also wanted to ask you, if you have any final advice for someone who wants to become a full-time artist.
Hmm. For what I tell my kids all the time because they want to be artists too. This is what
Mhm.
I tell them. I tell them, carry a sketchbook with you at all times, like a small one in your back pocket, or a small sketchbook in the glove compartment of your car. Always carry one because there's two things that happens while we're traveling, whether we're just running to the grocery store. Sometimes sometimes a thought would enter your head that you, as an artist, only you can articulate through drawing. It's not about note taking, it's not about journaling. It's about sketching out that little creature that you imagined, or, and you draw it as soon as it comes, park the car and draw it. And I tell them to date it because dating it is very important because you're going to always refer back to your old sketches and then bring it to life, whether it's a full painting or not. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I would tell anybody is to keep a sketchbook with you because that's your database that you can carry with you to become that artist, you know? I mean, that's what I mean, that's that's the thing that no one else has is your brain and is your memory and all your experiences. So I know it doesn't equate to a practical step to making a living, but it is one of the most important steps is to carry a sketchbook with you, I think.
Yeah,
And don't
I
give
agree. You
and
never
don't
know.
stop.
Yeah, and
You know
that's
what?
one of the reasons I have a Samsung Note. Because it has like the little pen, so in my notes app I can actually like draw my little ideas and makes it really convenient.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, don't stop. That's what I tell my kids all the time. Just don't stop. It's like, and right now they're trying to figure it out. You know, they're in their 20s. They want to be an artist. I said, yeah, I don't have an answer for you right now, but it'll come. It just comes. But don't stop what you're doing, you know?
Yeah, that's really great advice. And your kids are lucky to have like you as a father, and if they want to be an artist, like this is what you do, kids. Like
Yeah,
that's great. I wish my dad was an artist so I can just hit him up like, hey dad, I'm stuck in this. What do you
yeah,
recommend?
yeah.
But yeah, that's really great.
But you know, but at the same time, I remember how I was when I was 20.
Hmm.
You know, an adult could be telling you the golden nugget, but you won't really hear it
Yeah.
until you actually go through the steps of doing
Yeah.
life, you know?
Hmm.
So I remember like it took years before I looked back in my 20s and I'm like, oh, that's what that guy meant when he said this, you know? So it's one of those things. It's like, you know, that's my advice, but you know, people might not hear it, but they'll hear it years from now, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yes.
And
That's why they say you have to repeat the same kind of tips in different ways or the same advice in different ways because in one moment we might hear it and not really resonate with it because we're not ready for it yet. And then
yeah,
eventually we hear it again. It's like, oh, now that
right.
I've experienced a bunch of things, it makes it more obvious that
Yeah,
this was the thing. Even though I've heard it a million times, like I get it
yeah.
now. Yeah.
Can
Yeah.
I say one more thing
Of course.
that would be helpful, but it's very, very hard? Is I don't think anybody can teach you how to take rejection, but you got to be ready for rejections. And however you process that and handle that, it comes. Rejection comes, you know, even to the most successful people, like, you know. So just be just be aware that it does come and it, you know, you got to be able to take a rejection and learn from it and sort of like have that self-awareness that hey, maybe, you know, maybe I'm, you know, I'm not ready for this, you know. But there's another thing too is when you get a rejection, it's not always your fault. Meaning it's not just your work that's an issue. Sometimes it's the other person that you're proposing to that they're not they're not being able they're not able to see the value of you just yet. You know, they don't see the potential or they don't see the value of you. So it's, like I said, it's not rejections will come, but it's not always going to be you that's being rejected. They're actually, you know, not being able to appreciate you kind of thing. I hope
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect
But it
sense.
comes.
Yeah. I mean, art is in the end, still pretty subjective, and it's one of those things also with the competitions, right? Like you apply, you put in your work, and then if you don't check out who the judges are, right? Because sometimes they'll have the list of judges.
Yeah,
If you don't check out who the judges are and the type of work
yeah,
that they make, you might
yeah,
accidentally fall into, well, I put my painting and it's the best painting I've ever made, which is like, yeah, but you're posting it or like you're applying with a painting that maybe won't be appreciated by the judges because from their work you can see that they have a I don't know, a tendency to prefer hyperrealism or a tendency to
mhm,
prefer this style. So, like you said, it's not necessarily the person's fault. They could have like a really beautiful painting that would do better in a competition where the judges do have a
yeah,
similar vision of
yeah,
appreciation of that type of work. So yeah, totally. And even galleries too. I mean, if you apply to a random gallery and like your work doesn't really fit in with their
yeah,
stuff, then you're gonna
yeah.
get rejected. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Actually, actually, you kind of reminded me of another important item.
Yeah.
Sorry, sorry.
Go for it.
You're giving me ideas. Um, Networking is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how they say it's not what you know, it's who you know? That
Hmm.
is so true. That is so true. Um, there's been so many times when I was in video games, a young person will call me up and say, "Hey, hey, Donald, um, can I buy you a coffee?" you know, and I'm looking at this kid, I'm like, okay, he wants a job, and he wants me to get into. So we would meet and have coffee, and all he wanted was to just be connected with artists. Long story short, years later, I did hire him. At the moment, he wasn't looking for a job, but it's because he stayed connected with me, and it's about who you know. There's that, and then I just never stopped trying to connect with, and it doesn't always have to be artists. It could be non-artists. It's who you know that's gonna help you along the way. So don't just sit in your studio and just draw. Try to get out there and connect with people. That's what I would say.
Totally, totally. I mean, like there are so many really great like conventions for painters and like painting societies, and there are a lot of opportunities if you look for them in your local community, even that I think more people should be paying attention to, or even just shooting an email or a DM or anything to like someone you admire. You never know if they're going to
Yep.
respond.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I look back years ago, and I remember admiring a certain artist. I'm not going to mention the name, but such a wonderful painter, and I was so intimidated. But I was just
Oh,
like, I'm just going to send him an email, and I just asked him for the same advice that you're asking right now. And he turns out to be the nicest guy. The most intimidating painters out there turns out to be the nicest painter, nicest people. And he sends me an email, and it's like 3 paragraphs long. And it was so cool. It was just one of the moments, and like I still haven't met him in person, but I intend to. But yeah, he sent me a 3 paragraph email saying do this and do that and try doing this, and he was telling me his little story too about going through rejections, but don't give up kind of thing. So, anyways, I think
and now
that's
you're passing it forward.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, actually, speaking also of your work and passing it forward, do you have any upcoming shows or workshops that you'd like to promote?
Yes. August 7th here in Whitefish, Montana, I have a solo exhibition. I'll have 18 new paintings, and some of them you see back here.
Hmm.
They're not all completed, but they're on its way. So I'll have a solo exhibition on August 7th at um, Frame of Reference Art Gallery. So if you guys are in the area, yeah, come by.
Yeah. Yeah, and then if someone can't go, where can they see more of your work?
Yep. So I have a website, donaldyatomi.com.
Mhm. Awesome. And then I'm guessing, of course, you have like your social media links and everything, but of course, I will include all of that in the show notes,
Yeah,
so people go check it out.
yeah, follow
Um,
me on Instagram. And it, if anyone wants have questions for me, just reach out. I'm more than happy. Because I've been there. I've been there when I was in my 20s, and it's like I wanted advice and I wanted help, and these people were so. Like I said, I gave you that one example. They're nice, so I'll be nice. I'm more than willing to
yeah.
answer questions. So.
Yeah, and you've been a joy to have on the podcast. I really appreciate all of the wonderful advice and the very cozy chat. This has been really great. Thank you so much, Donald.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We'll keep in touch, of course.
Okay.